Magister Dixit. Magister Dixit. Magister Dixit. Magister Dixit.
Welcome to Magister Dixit, a podcast that invites you on a journey into realms of expertise, imagination, and occultism. Delve deep into the minds of those that have dedicated their lives to mastering their crafts, and how having an esoteric or supernatural influence has shaped that path. In each episode, we will engage with magisters, true masters of their respected fields, as they share their unparalleled insights, unconventional knowledge, and their unique perspectives. Venture into the mystical as we converse with filmmakers, musicians, and renowned authors. Listen to their perspectives on their respected disciplines and how being a practitioner of occultism has influenced their craft. Remember, in the realm of knowledge, Magister Dixit, the master has spoken. In today's episode, we're honored to be joined by Cath Thompson, a renowned English Qaballist, stellar magician, and prolific author. Cath Thompson brings over 3 decades of experience in the realms of English Qaballa, ceremonial magic, and spiritual exploration. As the author of the groundbreaking works such as the Magickal Language of the Book of Law, an English Qaballa Primer, and a Handbook of Stellar Magick, Cath's insights into symbolism, ritual practices, and mystical traditions are unparalleled. In this episode, we'll delve into Cath Thompson's journey into the occult, her pioneering research and discoveries, and her transformative power of English Qaballa and Stellar Magick. We'll also explore her recent works, including her innovative revisions of traditional rituals and tarot imagery, offering listeners a glimpse into the evolving landscape of modern occultism. Join us as we unravel the mysteries of the cosmos and dive deep into magical realms. Let's welcome Cath Thompson to the show. Cath, I would like to welcome you to Magister Dixit, and I always do like to start off our interviews talking to our guests about their early life experiences, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about your upbringing and the influence that perhaps maybe created the interest in occultism and mystical traditions.
Okay. Well, there wasn't anything in particular in my childhood. It was fairly average English middle class, 60s. I was brought up in the south of the country and within driving distance or a train journey of London. And I slowly moved north and then north again, and now I'm just north of Manchester. But there wasn't anything in particular. It was the family moved to Tamworth, which is in the Midlands, in the middle of England, and that was where Jim Lees was running his group in the 70s. And I happened to meet a chap who was a member of that group, and visited his house and found it full of occult books and magazines and a mysterious locked front room and nice incense smells, and it kind of went on from there. They were, at that time, the group were experimenting with English Qaballa, and they'd prepared their own copies of the Book of the Law with all the numbers typed into the text. And these were photocopied on A4 and bound up or stapled together. And he had one of these copies, and it just gripped me entirely. I'd never read anything like the Book of the Law before.
Had you ever heard of Aleister Crowley before?
I'd never heard of Aleister Crowley. And I wanted to know what it all meant. I wanted to know what the numbers meant. And so it just kind of went on. From that point, there wasn't anything in particular previously to that.
Now you became the youngest member of the group that was led by James Lee.
Yes.
Lees, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, how did he obtain the order and the value of the English alphabet encoded in the manuscript of Liber Al, the Legis in 1976? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. He was on a magical retirement at the time, and he'd been on a magical retirement for some months, and all that he could find as something to do was nothing. The only instruction he received was do nothing. And so he was just sort of messing about, doing this and that and whatever occurred. He was doing the Bornless ritual and other bits and pieces just to keep busy, as you do. And in the November of that year, as he said, he just decided to have a look at the Book of the Law, which was the red bound copy that was on sale previously from Aleister Crowley. And he had copies of the Equinox as well, so he had the text of the Book of the Law and the manuscript of the Book of the Law in the volumes of the Equinox. So he started having a look at it and sort of mulling it over and seeing if he could discover any kind of a key, and looking at verse 76 in chapter 2, which is very odd, to say the least, and messing about with calculators and adding stuff up. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, following that kind of a route. And then he realized that I think the number is 286, 22 times 13 is 26 times 11. So since there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet and 26 letters in the English alphabet, this number 286 seemed to indicate that 11 was significant, since 11 times 26 is 268. I think I've got the right number there, but I might be wrong. You have to check. But anyway, he started to count through the English alphabet, taking A as 1 and then counting 11 letters forward. So if you count 11 letters forward from A, you get to L. And if you count 11 more letters forward from that, you get to W. And then you carry on round and you get to H. And it uncovers the order and value of the Kabbalistic alphabet. A, L, W, H, S, D, O, Z, and so on. And weird things happened on that night, which were witnessed by several people. The power supply to the house becoming weaker and then stronger, the washing machine running slowly and then speeding back up again, the lights dimming and coming bright again. Things that don't really happen. And so Jim reckoned that he'd stumbled on something. And then a little while later, everybody noticed, well, the people who were involved at the time, noticed that on sheet 16 of chapter 3 of the manuscript of the Book of the Law, there's a grid with letters along the top and numbers down the side. And if you write the letters into the columns rather than into the rows, but downwards, then you get the ALW sequence on the diagonal of that grid. So it was sort of there all the time in the manuscript. Nobody saw it. Well, that's how it came about. There were 2 or 3 people there at the time messing about with calculators and trying to ascertain the value of verse 76. And all the calculators came up with the same number, 286, which was a strange coincidence because they weren't all doing the same sum.
So the magical number of 286.
Yeah. So that's how it came about.
And am I correct in Lee's appointed you as his literary executor?
Yes, he did.
When he passed in 2015?
Yes.
And what is it like to continue the legacy of such a great work?
It's quite hard work. It's quite exciting. It's a bit scary at times. But it's thoroughly worth doing.
And now, am I correct also that you've written 4 books about English Qabala? And
I've done 5. And
okay,
I've
so
published
5?
an enumerated Book of the Law, so I don't really count that as my writing, but it's, it's under my name.
Well,
and I've got a 7th one on the way.
Wow. Now let's talk about the magical language of the Book of the Law, an English Qaballa Primer. You explore the English Qaballa, and for somebody who is unfamiliar with all of this, what would be a simple layman way of explaining it?
Well, you take the numerical values that are assigned to the letters, so A equals 1, L equals 2, W equals 3, H equals 4, and so on. And then you take a word that is attractive to you in any way, and you calculate its value. And then you may find immediate resonance with that number, like it might be your flat number, or the number of the house you live in, or something like that. Or it might be in the registration of your car, or you might find other words that have the same value.
Isn't that also much in the way that Aleister Crowley also gave power to other numbers, like 93 and 418 and
yes, it's what gematria does. It forms links, numerical links between words, so that you can authoritatively state that this word has a relationship with that word because they have the same value.
Like what was it? Love and Babylon. Am I correct? They both.
I don't know. I'm not very well read on Crowley's Kabbalistic workings because I've been doing ours for all these years.
Right. And it's interesting that you have such an interest in Qabala, but not really so much influenced really by like Crowley's works, but more of Mr. Lee's.
Well, yes, and yes, indeed. The group that he ran, we all joined in experimenting with English Qaballa, with adding words up and coming to conclusions about things, and also doing rituals, experimental rituals, which was suggested by certain numeric values.
Now, are there any challenges or obstacles you've faced in your path in becoming an accomplished English Qaballist and a stellar magician?
Just the ordinary kind of stuff that all magicians have to deal with, I would say.
Like what regular people think of you or something like that, or your interaction with people in everyday life?
No, I mean like your whole life dropping to bits.
Okay.
And having to rebuild.
And what I just said brought up stellar magic. Let's talk about that. What is stellar magic?
In our definition of it, it's the utilization of certain astrological aspects, performing rituals synchronized in time with those aspects. So one of the main rituals is the Sun-Venus ritual. So you'd look up the date and time of the Sun-Venus conjunction, and then you'd plan a ritual slightly ahead of it in time, a day or two previous, or whenever was convenient, but with the aspect applying rather than separating.
Right. And you've also done in finding new symbols. You discuss groundbreaking revisions of the traditional tarot imagery based on English Qaballa principles. Can we talk a little bit about that and how that came about?
Well, yes, it's the traditional tarot has 22 trumps to go with the 22 Hebrew letters, and in later times it was developed to fit onto the tree of life, and all the symbols relate with all the other symbols as per Aleister Crowley's 777, which is all very nice. But that's only 7 planets worth, and we've got 10 in our solar system. And English Qaballa, having 26 letters, provides for 26 trumps, which divides neatly up into 12 zodiac trumps and 10 planetary trumps and 4 trumps for the elements, which has the advantage of putting Earth on the same level, same archetypal level as air and fire and water, which is a different way of looking at Earth as an element from the traditional view that it's pendant on the bottom of the tree of life.
Now, you've also mentioned the application of astrological principles to ceremonial magic in your work. How do astrology and celestial energies intersect with your understanding of magical practice? And what advice do you have for practitioners that are looking to incorporate astrology into their rituals?
What's happening in the stars, in the astrological picture of reality, affects one's life all the time. It's a constant conversation going on, and you can tune in or out of it. Most of the time we're tuned out of it. So for practicing magic, it's a case of checking where the planets are and what aspects they're making, and making sure that the stars are benefit and helpful with what you want to do. For instance, if you want to make a Mars talisman, it's a bad idea to do it with Mars conjunct Saturn, unless you want to involve an awful lot of pressure. If you want to do something with Jupiter, same thing applies. You wouldn't choose a time when Jupiter was in a bad aspect with any of the malefic planets, if you could avoid it.
And I think I've read in other texts, in planetary magic ritual, that sometimes it's with also specific colors and metals and perhaps symbols and things like that that also coincide with the time and with the planet.
Yes. In that context, I think the 777 tables are very useful, because they list all the colors, they list all the perfumes, they list beasts, real and imaginary, and all sorts of correspondent ideas, which are actually quite appropriate. There's nothing at fault there. You can use those sorts of things.
Yeah, and that's how I saw it too. It was like in a big grid, and it had all the corresponding elements or colors and what plants or herbs or whatever, and like you said, perfumes and everything, so that
yes,
it could provide that information for somebody to incorporate into their rituals.
Yes, and it all helps to make the contact with the spirit realm, for want of a better expression, that you're wanting to make. If you're surrounded with appropriate colours that the spirits will find favourable, and the perfumes are also favourable to the spirits, and so on and so on.
Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about was if you could perhaps share some of the insights into your process of creating a revised version of the LBRP, the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram. This all done through the lens of English Qaballa.
Yes. That was an extraordinary episode. That came out of a discussion about revising the Kabbalistic cross along English Qabbalistic lines, which is not altogether difficult to do. And then I just thought, well, why not extend this revision to the whole pentagram ritual? And it was really inspired to place the planets in the quarters, and then place the moon above and Saturn below, and the sun in the heart, Tiferet, solar plexus center, as a ritual, and have it all connected up with visualized light, and then you've protected yourself in 3 dimensions rather than just in a flat plane, as it were.
Well, what it's also is so interesting is it's probably the most introductory and common ritual that beginner magicians must master, and
Yes.
at first it's this big long process, and then then it becomes where it's like they come in and they do their LBRP, and then they get to doing whether it's invocation or and then they close out again, and
Yes.
and it's just interesting to me to hear the English Qaballa take on it. So can you kind of give us a little bit of it, like a sample of, I don't know, so normally we would do the Kabbalistic cross, and is it in the words that there's a variation in how,
Yes,
how I'm
yes.
saying it, in the visualization?
No, it's the words. And the words are chosen because of Kabbalistic values. And one of the things about the Book of the Law is that it mentions the name Jesus, which allows the magician or the Kabbalist to examine that name without any of the baggage or the politics or the history or anything, but purely on its number and its correspondences by number. So the word, the letters JESUS, have the same value as the word life and the same value as the word change. So we say, in the name of the Lord of life and change. That doesn't have to be Jesus. If you don't want it to be Jesus, it can be. Well, Krishna has the same value as Jesus. If Jesus is not your favourite deity, and I know he isn't for some people, but anyway, that's the one above, in the name of the Lord of life and change. And then, for the honour of the Mother Virgin. The Mother and Virgin have the same value. The number 93 is the value of Mother and Virgin. So that's a whole other area of significance, which really is going to take too much to discuss. So, in the name of the Lord of life and change, for the honour of the Mother, in the presence of God, the eternal now, because God has the same value as now. And every now is God. This is how God happens to be omnipotent and everywhere, all the time. God is now. In the name of the Lord of life and change, for the honour of the Mother, in the presence of God, the eternal now, here, clap hands or thump chest or whatever it is you do, stamp your foot, because here has the same value as earth. So thus you make your cross.
Thank you for giving that. That was a very great example of understanding exactly what you're talking about when you say a revised version, and the power that all the changing of those words and the meaning and the power in that, and the symbol, the symbology within that. It's a very it was a very nice way to introduce that to me, in what that means. Were there any challenges in when you were doing this, or did you just really apply like the same mythology that you have done with like the Book of Law or
Oh
any?
no, that came quite easily. Other things were more challenging and took many years to really evolve and understand.
Now, after the Kabbalistic cross, we go into the rest of the LBRP. What are we substituting, or what words of power are we connecting in that part of the ritual?
Yes, this is more symbolic than anything else. So we have Mercury in the east, and then we have Mars in the south, and this is just drawing the pentagram and vibrating or speaking the name of the planetary name. So Mercury for the east, Mars for the south, Venus for the west, and Jupiter for the north. And then above is the moon, and below is Saturn, and the sun is in the center of the middle pillar. And so Mercury for the east for air is fairly easy, I think. Mars for the south for fire is also relatively easy. Venus for the west for water. Yeah, it's got to be really. And Jupiter for the north, the place where the Great Bear is, Jupiter being the biggest planet, weightiest planet, is in the north. And then the moon being the lightest and fastest is above, for the light that shines through the night. And the heavy, enduring, permanent one, Saturn, is beneath your feet. So you're always standing on something good and solid.
And are the visualizations also different in one's mind's eye as we're going through this revised version of the LBRP?
Well, slightly. There's not too much variation between a mercurial figure and figure of Raphael, for example. It's not too difficult to overlap that one. And for the moon, I don't know. You'd have to. I just do a silvery sort of a light, you know. Yeah, and for Saturn below the feet, just something heavy and solid, like a lump of granite or something like that.
There's a lot of occult history in the planet of Saturn.
Oh yes.
Both good and bad. You know, some things you read and you feel bad vibes about it, and other things, you know, maybe not so bad.
Astrologically speaking, Saturn is a great teacher. He moves so very slowly and
very ominous.
Yeah, can be.
Now you've mentioned also in your experiences with visionary experiences and initiation, and how do these help shape your understanding of spiritual growth and the mysteries of the Western magic tradition?
The other way around, really. The communication is the other way round to the way you're framing it in your question, I would say.
Okay. Did you have any interest in groups like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or the AA, or the OTO?
The books that were published by the Golden Dawn, is well regarded as Middle Pillar and Tree of Life and Garden of Pomegranates and so on. They were books that we read, and several of Crowley's books as well were books that we read, and books by Dion Fortune and other works that were available at the time. But that was really as much interest as I developed was just to buy and read the books. I was never anxious to search them out and join and become a member of the Golden Dawn or anything like that. I mean, I don't think the OTO would have me.
Why would that be?
because English Qaballa. and because Crowley didn't find English Qaballa, and because OTO has to follow Crowley, even though his system is, should we say, doubtful.
Now, since taking over as literary executor, has the group continued to get together? Is there a group of you that are still working on English Qaballa?
Yes. So we don't have a central meeting place where we all get together, but we do meet up. We meet up online, and we still practice English Qaballa and still perform the rituals that we formulated before Jim died. Yes, very much so. And international as well. It's not just in the UK, it's around the world-ish.
Do you still have correspondence with people internationally about English Qaballa? You do?
Yes.
And there's groups outside of the UK that perform these rituals?
I don't know. Yes, I think you could call them groups. Yes, and I'm told that this year there will be more people from other organisations joining in with this great ritual. So that'll be something to look forward to, because the more people who do it, the more energy it will have, and the easier it will become for everybody.
Well, you want to continue the legacy of James Lee's as well, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm sure you're also looking to be able to pass the torch to somebody who you feel will carry the tradition and the honor and respect that the reverence that you've shown to it.
Well, yes, I hope to find somebody. Keep my eyes open.
So let's talk about House 418, the Circle Squared.
Yes, that is our significant contribution to occultism, I think. Yes, House 418. 418 is the value of Libra plus Scorpio plus Sagittarius plus Capricorn. Those 4 signs of the zodiac together add up to 418. So that sequence describes an intensely magical sequence of events. If you take the zodiac as a life cycle with birth at Aries, then death is what happens in Scorpio. And so you can see Libra, which is the sign of judgment, as the final judgment, like the judgment hall of Osiris. And then there's the death phase where everything breaks. And then there's the Sagittarius phase, which is neither one thing nor the other. Like Sagittarius is half beast and half man. Sagittarius is card of alchemy. And who knows what alchemy goes on immediately after death. And then eventually you get to Capricorn. Capricorn is the lord of the zodiac with the light between his horns. When the sun enters Capricorn, it's the winter solstice, and the days start getting longer again. It's the rebirth of the light. And so this sequence, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, is a sequence of judgment, death, transformation, and regeneration, you could say. And if you ritualize that and identify with it as the moon goes through those signs, and then as the sun goes through those signs, then you will have appropriate experiences. And when you get to the other end, you'll find yourself rather different to how you were when you set out. It's like a pilgrimage. We refer to it as a pilgrimage, because it is very much like a journey. In fact, people who go on regular pilgrimages, like walking to James of Compostela or something like that, they set off with all the plans laid and all the judgments made, and nothing can go wrong, and then something does go wrong and they have to change their plans, and then it becomes really hard work and they're just slogging along, hardly knowing why they're doing it anymore, and then suddenly they arrive. And that is exactly the sequence of Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. And it's quite remarkable. And it has quite a remarkable effect upon the person who manages to get all the way through. But it's not easy, though. It's not easy.
What book of yours would you recommend for somebody who was just finding out about you? What of your 5 or 6 books, which one would you recommend as a starter or a primer?
That's a difficult question. That's a really difficult question. I think...
Would it be the Handbook of Stellar Magick? Or
I was just coming to think that, yes. Yes, because if they get that one and they like it, then they can decide whether to get House 418 and go a little further with it. But yes, the rituals in Stellar Magick and the use of the Path of Fortune invocations at dawn, that's a system of magic that works. Works really nicely, that does.
And I also wanted to talk about all this in a book where we're actually where we're including talking about the revision of the tarot, and also I believe does that also, can you get the cards with the book? Or
no, I published a very limited edition myself, and they're all sold.
So they're gone. Yeah.
They're gone, yes, and I haven't been able to find anybody interested in publishing them, and I simply can't afford it. So no, sorry.
Are there pictures of the different tarot cards in the book? Or
Yes, there are. The trumps are illustrated.
okay.
I believe the hardback has coloured illustrations, whereas the paperback is just black and white.
So you're not ruling out the possibility of a repressing. Just somebody would have to introduce a deal that sounded interesting to you.
Yes, but it's not really me. It's my publisher. You need to approach with a deal. I mean, I'm bound to agree.
Now, where is the best location to go on the web to find out everything about Cath Thomas? Your books. What else do you do on the web? Are you online? Do you have a Twitter account or Instagram or anything like that?
No. I'm on Facebook, but not with any degree of self-advertisement, really. I don't do very much online, and there isn't really anywhere where you can find out all about me. I'm not there.
This podcast.
This podcast would be a good place to start, yes.
I did see your books are on Amazon.
Yes, they are. Yes.
And what do you have coming up in the works for us? What's your next book, or what's your next endeavor?
The 7th book is a sort of overview of English Qaballa and some of the areas that it brings up and introduces a whole new rack of ideas that are really quite different. And for instance, woman has the same value as one, which is a bit of a statement, really. Man has the same value as sun, the big hot thing in the sky, sun. So that's quite appropriate. But woman as one, that's a whole other creature. You know, it's not quite what we've been led to believe. And it's really quite goddess oriented, is English Qaballa. It's quite strong for women.
Has anyone ever written anything on Mr. Lees?
Not to my knowledge, only me.
And just curious about his magical journey, and his background as well.
Yeah, he was born in 1939, just at the outbreak of World War II, and he could remember where he was before he was born. So he could remember all the peace and light and love and happiness of heaven. And then he got born into a world of bombs dropping from the sky and post-industrial filth of Lancashire. He grew up in a mill town, in a cotton mill town, at a time when the cotton industry was in decline. And but he had this memory. And so he pursued that, and wanting to know what the heck it was all about and what the heck was going on. And he studied psychology for a while, and then he discovered astrology, and so he studied astrology. And from astrology, he moved into the Key of Solomon and the planetary talismans. And from there, he went to the Abramelin system, and from there, he went to Aleister Crowley and all that material. And from there, he went to the middle pillar and the Israel Gadi tree of life. And along the way, he had Giordano Bruno and the Bournemouth Ritual, and quite a comprehensive.
Well, I'm sure he was a quite avid reader of Agrippa as well, right?
Yeah. He sort of did it all, and then for 15 to 16 years. And then he thought that he could show some things to other people. And so he formed a group in 1973 or 1974. And then in 1976, he got the key to the Book of the Law, and that became the focus from there on.
Well, thank you for that little brief history there. I appreciate that. That was very nice.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And Cath, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, and I hope maybe you'll come back for season 2, maybe when the new book is complete.
It's going to be published quite soon, I believe. And I haven't got any plans to write any more after that. But we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, definitely please stay in touch. And
I will.
Thank you for coming on Magister Dixit. And you were a very interesting guest.
Thank you.
I definitely gonna order a few of your books, and I'm gonna dig in and read about stellar magic. Yes.
Well, it works. People say it works. I'm not the only one. So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very well. I appreciate again you being a guest, and thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening too.